Welcome back, everybody, to 3 Point Lines here on the Parlay. I'm your host, Luca Rosano, alongside my co-host, Noor Zainab, and we are back on this Monday to break down another slate of NBA games as we'll be making our picks, as always, against the spread. It was a very forgettable Friday, as Noor and I both went 3-9. My percentage actually went down a percentile. I'm now at 53%. And it was a crazy Friday. Before we dive into Monday's games, let's quickly talk about Friday, Nor. A couple of notable games, notable events. Raptors not only didn't cover, but they lost that game outright against the Magic. That's a part, of course, of their 3-game losing skid at the moment. We had some other events. Cleveland, Philly, Philadelphia did win, but the Cavaliers did cover. Milwaukee, Chicago happened, and the Bucks won, which just begs the question, what's going on with the Bulls? This team cannot beat high quality teams. And then the one that I want to talk to you about, this was, in my opinion, the most crazy storyline from Friday. The Pelicans, they were 4-point underdogs, I believe, and they absolutely blew the door off the Jazz. They won that game by like 30. What were your thoughts on that?
I have no words. I don't even know what to tell you. The whole night was just insane. Like you mentioned it, we went 3 of 9. And yeah, I think we both picked Utah to win that one because we thought, okay, this is a Utah Jazz team that's more advanced. They're more cultured to this season. They understand what they have to do, what they have to win. They have more experience on their side. And then you see JV and Ingram and McCollum come out and they absolutely kill the Jazz. And it's like, how did that happen? It came out of nowhere. And you got to give it up to the Pelicans, right? This is a completely new team. They changed everything from what they were going to be running once the trade deadline hit. But since then, they've been a force to be reckoned with. They've got the right guys everywhere. They've got JV in the paint. They have McCollum who's out there to facilitate and pass the ball around as well as take it from the three. And then Ingram he's coming into his own. Ingram, I think, is going to be the story for this Pelicans team moving forward, and a very good spot for this fans to just really hold someone up to that standard of winning. So I don't know what happened. We lost the pick, but I was a very impressed fan, I want to say. What about you?
Yeah, it was crazy. When I saw that stat line, I didn't watch the game. I just looked at the score afterwards. But when I saw that, I couldn't believe my eyes. And then I went back to watch the highlights. And this Pelicans team, they just look reinvigorated. I mean, CJ McCollum is such a great addition to that team. BI's been playing great. I mean, Lakers fans wish they have him right now. And that team is really clicking. And I mean, if it wasn't for Jokic playing out of his mind last night, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show, the Pelicans would be on a 5-game winning streak. They actually brought that team to overtime. And again, it took Jokic's heroics for them to lose. The Pelicans are one of those sleeper teams. They're in the play-in now. If they could get into the actual playoffs, that's a team I would not want to bet against. And then something else I want to touch on here. The New York Knicks, they covered the spread against the Phoenix Suns. We both picked the Suns. The Knicks almost won that game. And this is actually a Knicks team that's going to go into tonight's game on a 2-game streak in terms of covering the spread. So all of a sudden the Knicks are covering the spread. So that was crazy. But yeah, all in all, Friday was a very bad day for us, but it was a very unexpected day for bettors. And if you did take the dogs, you would have profited nicely. I mean, we just talked about two, with the Pelicans cashing in, the Knicks cashing in against the spread, and then the Magic beating the Raptors outright. If you put like $10 on that, the return would have been absurd. It was a crazy Friday for underdog betting.
And we called it, Luca. We should have done it. We could have been rich this morning, would not have to clock in for work, and just would have disappeared off the planet. But yeah, you mentioned it. I took most favorites on the spread as well. And Sixers won, but did not cover. Suns, you mentioned it, won by 1, but they absolutely did not cover against that Knicks team. And Hawks also won, but they did not cover. But then I did take the Rockets as underdogs to cover against the Nuggets, but that was the only team, the only matchup where the favorites actually won, and they not only won, but they covered the spread. So like you mentioned it, terrible, disastrous night, but let's hope, fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever works. Let's just hope tonight's a lot better.
All right, let's get into Monday slate of games, and we'll see if we're riding with some dogs or going with favorites. There's a ton of favorites tonight, a ton of big spreads tonight, and we're
Yeah.
first going to start with the first game. We got the Hawks taking on the Pistons. The Hawks are in the thick of things when it comes to the plan. The Pistons, not so much, but the Pistons have been a pretty good underdog bet lately. Are they going to keep their fortunes going here?
They probably would be a pretty decent pick if it weren't for Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. And you might not believe me, but both Hawks and Pistons have won 5 of their last 7. But the Hawks are actually playing for a playoff spot while the Pistons are getting a head start on next year's practice. But either way, that momentum makes this a pretty fun matchup between these two because they've both been on a roll recently. And Pistons are playing without the pressure of having to accomplish anything right now, which I think almost comes with newfound confidence that now you can just kind of leave it all on the floor without having any expectations of anything, right? And Hawks, on the other hand, have insane offense in Collins, who is now Trae Young and Collins, who then Collins is now back in the lineup. And obviously Trae, who's able to give you 50 on pretty much any given night. And if the Hawks were the Raptors here, I would be tempted to pick Dwayne Casey to cover the spread. But I think in this scenario, the Hawks offense is going to be way too much for the Pistons. And the Hawks have been a pretty hot and cold team throughout the year. But when everyone is healthy, this is also the team that you want to pick for the over. They go insane on offense. And I think that's what they will do tonight with everybody intact. So give me the Hawks. How about you?
All right, I like it. We're disagreeing out of the gate here because I'm going with the Pistons. I love what the Pistons have been doing. They've been such a good bet, good value bet as an underdog. Look at what they've been able to do in 6 of their last 7. They have covered those games, and not to mention, they have pulled off upsets during that span against teams like the Raptors, the Hornets, the Celtics, and the Cavaliers. So this is a Pistons team. They are playing with house money because they know their playoff chances are down the drain. So they have nothing to lose. They're going out there and they're expecting the best. They're playing their hardest. And usually when you go in without any expectations, as this Pistons team is doing right now, that usually results in some very favorable outcomes. And also the Hawks, they have struggled on the road this season all season long. And they're just 10-21 against the spread, which is the worst mark in the NBA on the road. And Detroit, going back to that impressive stretch that they're on right now, they've been solid defensively. They've ranked 13th in defensive rating, and their offense has been good too. They've been 16th in offensive rating. So I could see this being a close game. If you really want to go the extra mile, this could be a game where the Pistons could even play spoiler and maybe even upset the Hawks, but I won't go that far, but I will take Detroit plus 7.5. I really like the Pistons tonight.
Damn. See, I want to fight you on this, but I am a Toronto fan and we've been traumatized by the Pistons. There's no way. They're my new Cavaliers, the LeBron James. If you give me the Pistons, I'm going to be like, yeah, you know what? They might win against the Jazz. You know what? They might take it against the Nets. But that's how it's been this in the past 2 years since Dwayne Casey has gone. But on the other side tonight, we've got the Chicago Bulls taking on the Philadelphia 76ers, which is, I want to say, game of the night, maybe, perhaps, where the Sixers are favored by -7.5. Who are you riding with here, Luca?
This is such a big game for Chicago. There's been so much talk about how this team is unable to beat good teams. I saw the stats somewhere and I forgot what it was, but it was a very bad record against winning teams. Against the top 7, Chicago had a very poor record. I think they only mustered up like 2 wins, I want to say. This has been a bad Bulls team against good competition. And tonight is going to be another true test. I mean, if the Bulls want to be that big, bad Bulls team in the East that can make a run, you got to beat teams like Philadelphia. You had to beat teams like Milwaukee, which they were unable to do. But this is going to be a true test because James Harden, who missed Saturday's game due to load management, will be back in the lineup. It is expected that Harden is back. So we've seen how good the Sixers team has been with Harden. Small sample size, but we've seen all we needed to see. 4-0. 3 double-digit wins by an average of 14.5 points in those wins. Philadelphia's defense has been top-notch. Their offense has been seamless. Maxey has been playing like that emerging third star. So is Chicago going to get it done? I don't think so. I think this is going to be another disappointing showing by the Bulls. They got Ball out, Caruso out, Vucevic is questionable. He needs to play in this one or else MB is just going to absolutely have a heyday inside. But you look at the Bulls, they're 0-4 as underdogs in each of their last 4 games, and the Sixers are 10-0 straight up in their last 10 against the Bulls. This has been a one-sided series. It's a pretty big number, but I'm going to go with the Sixers minus 7.5.
We're gonna do our second one with an agreement tonight, actually, because I agree with you. I think the Bulls are a team right now where you kind of, I can't really give you what I think they're going to look like right now or a couple of years down the line, just because I do think the health is a big factor here. Having Caruso out, having Ball out, and when these guys were all together intact, when they had their starting five in Levine, Vooch, Debo, Caruso, and Ball, they looked fantastic. That looked like the team of the East, but you have had all these guys plug in, plug out. You pretty much have only had Debo on the court. And as great as Debo is and as amazing of a season as he's been having, not only can he not do all that alone, but he also is a liability on the defensive end, right? Like I hate saying it. I don't want to say it, but it's not a helpful factor. And unfortunately, on these days, you do need defense to stop any of these bigger teams. So you're right. At this point, it's kind of like, okay, Bulls, can you stop people like Embiid? Can you stop duos like Embiid and Harden? And for tonight, you mentioned it. There is Vooch is already questionable. We have no idea if he's going to be suiting up for tonight. And if he does, you need him. You need him against Embiid. Obviously, no one out there can really stop Embiid, but having some level of competition and some extra bodies will only help you against someone like that. And Philly is in a spot here right now where they can produce on any end as long as they have Harden on the floor. Just pretty much as he mentioned it, they've been 4-0 without him, 4-0 with him. The one game they had without him against, I believe it was who they play, and they pretty much got blown out. Yeah, Miami. They got blown out without Harden. So I think they scored 81 points all game. And they need that. So because at this point, you've got Embiid who takes over the paint. You've got Harden who pretty much goes around wherever he wants to. And most importantly, that now leaves space for Maxey to be open. If you look at Maxey's stats since Harden has been playing, I can't give you them off the top of my head right now, but his numbers have gone way up ever since they've inserted Harden in this lineup because it just gives him so much more opportunities, so much more spacing, and no one stops him because you have Embiid and Harden on the floor. You've got Maxey now wide open. So this is a game where I think you're right, where this is a big spread, but this is a team that should be able to cover it, especially if there's Vooch on the floor. And unfortunately, the Bulls just have not earned anyone's trust against good teams right now. So yeah, give me Philly as well.
All right, we're about to enter some big spread territory here.
Oh,
First one,
man.
we got Rockets, Miami. Miami's been one of the hottest teams in the league. They're expected to get Victor Oladipo back soon. They're favorites here by 14.5. Are you laying that?
It depends on which Rockets team is going to show up tonight. The one that gets blown out by the Nuggets or the one that beats the Grizzlies and takes Utah to OT. Jalen Green is playing lights out right now, and he's doing a little bit of everything on the court, and he actually has help. Kevin Porter Jr. dropped 29 points, and Christian Wood helped out with 28 in their last matchup. And while Eric Gordon is questionable for tonight, so is Lowry on the other side. The Heat had a pretty triumphant win over Philly the other day, which we just talked about, but they were playing without Harden in that one. And before that, they had kept the deficit pretty close. The more I talk about it, the more I'm thinking this might be too big of a spread for this sketchy Rockets team where you have no idea which version will show up any given night. And they are in a back-to-back here, but as a young team, it could work to their advantage in order to keep the momentum of last night's win moving forward. This might be a hot pick, and I'm actually going to take the Rockets on this one. So just don't lock me up. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you here. I got to go with the Rockets too. This is too big of a number for me. Miami's been dominant, but when you look at when they are a big double-digit favorite, they haven't fared well in that spot. Just 1-5 against the spread as a double-digit favorite. Also, the Heat have won by 4 points at home against San Antonio, 13 as favorites against Brooklyn, and by 4 points as 11-point favorites. So yeah, this is a team that doesn't blow their opposition out, especially when they're favorite. So I'm gonna actually go with the Rockets here. The Rockets, they've been one of those streaky teams, like you said. Which version of the Rockets are we gonna see? I'll trust that we'll get the Rockets team that has been in some of these good battles, and the Heat actually covered, and they only won by 10 against the Rockets last time these two teams met on New Year's Eve. So I'm going to go with the Rockets. I'm hoping they show up in this spot. Miami, they want to keep that top seed in the East. I do expect them to win, but I think it's going to slightly be less than that 14.5 point spread. So yeah, give me Houston in this spot. I think the underdog cash is in here.
I don't know about that. The Rockets won last night, Luca. They could keep the momentum going tonight too against this Heat team if they have Noah Lowry on the court. But speaking of big spreads, we're gonna move on to the Western Conference where the Blazers are taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Wolves are favored by -15. What are your thoughts?
This is a big spread I'm taking. It might be an unpopular pick, might be a lot of points. I mean, I'm laying 2 touchdowns and 1 point, but Minnesota, you talk about scary teams right now in the West. The West is so fun. I mean, this could be a year in the West where you see the unthinkable happen. I'm just thinking in the middle to bottom of the West right now, how many fun teams are there to watch? You have Denver, who could be a dark horse. You could have the Mavericks, who could be another dark horse. You have this Minnesota team that's rising all of a sudden. It's going to be some pretty fun basketball. Not to mention, you got the Pelicans in the play-in looking as lethal
Yeah.
as they have been. But going back to this Minnesota team, 5-1 against the spread over their last 6 games played. Also, the Timberwolves are an incredible 10-2 straight up in their last 12. And the Timberwolves are 6-1 against the spread in their previous 7 home matchups against the Blazers. Minnesota is finding new ways to win. They have their big three, they have their team in place, and they're ready to take that next step. While the Blazers, they have not been a team that has been able to keep these games close. They have been blown out by 30 or more points in 3 of their last 4 losses. And the last time they played was actually against the Timberwolves the other night,
Yeah.
and they lost that game by 14. So I'm hoping this time Minnesota could just up that a bit, get over that 14-point mark, get over 15 points, and cover it here. But I like Minnesota at home. I think they will have their way with the Blazers. I think it's safe to say now. I know I've been saying it all year, but it's safe to say now the Blazers are packing it in, and it's evident.
Yeah, I think Wolves gotta maybe make like one more free throw tonight, and they'll be able to cover the spread from last night as well. But we just talked about hot and cold teams against when it was the Rockets and the Miami Heat, and just look at the Blazers now. They're pretty much in the same show as well. They fail this season, then they show a little bit of life with their young guys in the trade deadline, and now they've lost their last 4 by more than 13 points. They're facing the Wolves again after Saturday's matchup, which the Wolves won by 14 points, as he pretty much mentioned, and it's going to be a rematch tonight. And the most important part here is that Anthony Simons dropped 38 in that to give them somewhat of a fight. Like, if you want to call that a fight, that was somewhat of a fight, I guess. But for tonight, he has been ruled out along with Justice Winslow and Eric Bledsoe. Those are big offensive hits, but nothing as big as Simons, which is why the spread makes a lot of sense and why you should be jumping on the horn to take this Wolves team to win the spread. I don't see how Blazers would have any fight in them tonight against a hot and towering Wolves who have now won 4 in a row, and they pretty much have no guys out there to give you anything. So yeah, give me the Wolves.
All right, we agree there. We'll see if that's a recipe for success of agreeing, because we did agree on every game on Friday, and that did not fare well. Okay, this is the game that I'm most interested in tonight. The Lakers, they're taking on the Spurs, and this is a game that a lot of people are going to be watching because was Saturday night's impressive win against the Warriors the tipping point where the Lakers turn their season around and they get back on track. This game will be telling of that. So are you buying into this Laker hype? Do you think that will be the turning point of their season? Or do you think this is where the Lakers just show their true colors and fall to a Spurs team that is probably not going to be in the plan?
Well, Luca, LeBron dropped what, 56 points last night? I think he might have activated his playoff version a little earlier this year, and perhaps that's to just first ensure there's a playoff for him to play in, right? They're not even in the spot right now to be playing anything in the playoffs. But I don't know. I think I'm actually gonna have to ride with LeBron. He had a little bit of a TED talk earlier on in the week where he was like, you know what, if you weren't on my side, don't be on my side again. And you know what, LeBron, after 56 points on the Warriors, given it's the Warriors right now, I understand, but still 56 points from this Lakers team with no help that LeBron has at this point, pretty much. Westbrook was the next man up, dropping 20 points. I think this is where they perhaps try to turn it around. At least against this matchup, they should be able to win this if this is the version that LeBron wants to bring every night. I'm scared for anyone who's going to have to stand in his way between now and mid-April if he really has activated, and putting them as underdogs here, if LeBron does pay attention to odds, will be his 13th reason tonight. And playing small ball, I think, also has helped them get
Yeah.
spacing, create the best shot. And I feel like having bigs all over. We saw that with the Raptors a couple nights ago as well, last night, where when you have so many big guys in the paint, it just gets so congested and it creates so many more opportunities for the other team to be able to steal the ball away from you or to just stop any runs happening or to just break a shot because you have no good shots open. And at this point, I think this is a team right now that I feel comfortable taking, and LeBron should be willing himself and his team to at least get this win as underdogs here. So for some reason, couldn't believe myself to be saying this, but give me the Lakers tonight. What about you?
Yeah, I wish I could say something to go the other way, but I gotta go with the Lakers too. I've momentarily reinvested in this team, and I think this is the game that's gonna make or break the Lakers. Everybody has now reinvested a little bit more in this team. I mean, that Saturday night win was impressive against a Warriors team that you could play in the first round if the Lakers do get into the playoffs. But this is the spot where I think we're going to see if the Lakers are real or fake. Because if this is a Lakers team that comes out uninspired and loses to a Spurs team that they should be, then I think the Lakers are just who we thought they were. But if this is a team that can once again look good and that small ball lineup continues to impress, like you just said, and LeBron looks motivated, not just to play against the Warriors, but actually to play here again tonight against the Spurs, then you got to start looking at this Lakers team as, okay, maybe they got something here. But I like this matchup for them tonight. I think the Lakers will be able to spread the floor a lot. I feel like LeBron's going to be able to have a big game. San Antonio has been a really good home team, but overall, this is a team that is playing for the lottery right now. This isn't a team that I think could get into the play-in, and I think the Lakers will show up once again. So they got to hit their three-point shots tonight, as they done on Saturday. And we know if you can hit your three-point shots when you have LeBron James doing a single out there,
Yeah,
you're going to have a chance to win. So I do like the Lakers, and you're getting them as an underdog tonight. So I feel like
exactly.
that's added value, especially if you think they're going to win, like both of us do. So yeah, give me LA here.
Yeah, get a jump start on that cash return. And I think LeBron should be able to hopefully turn this whatever Lakers adventure is around. But let's stick to the Western Conference today. We've got a tight game with the Jazz taking on the Mavericks, with the Mavericks as minus 1.5 favorites. So pretty much a money line spread here, Luca. What's your thought?
I got to go with one of the hottest teams in basketball. I got to go with Dallas minus 1.5. It's a low spread. Dallas is at home. They're 7-1-1 against the spread in their last 9 games. They're coming off a win against the Kings that they did not have Luca, and that was an incredible comeback. They should have Luca tonight, and the Jazz are going to be playing on a back-to-back. So I really like what the Mavericks have been doing here. The Jazz, they're going to be playing their 5th straight road game, and they have failed to cover the spread in 5 of their last 6 overall. So give me Dallas in this spot. I think Luka Doncic and the Mavericks are going to keep it going here. And Dallas, like I said before, they're one of those teams that you do not want to see in the first round of the playoffs, especially with how well that defense and that offense is clicking. So
Mhm.
yeah, give me Dallas at home.
Yeah, you would think I'm drunk if I'm going to take the Jazz here tonight after what they did to me on Friday and they got beat up by the Pelicans. There's no way. The Mavericks have been such a better team, and Luca and with the addition of Dinwiddie has just been on fire. They pretty much have been able to do whatever they want whenever they're both on the court together. They do have a couple of guys out tonight in Ntilikina, Brunson, Pinson, and Marquise Crease. With Luca listed as probable, but that pretty much means that he should be out there tonight. And the Jazz have pretty much no one on the injury report. If Luca suits up, this game should be it. As he mentioned, they are 7-1-1 against the spread in their last 9 games, and the Jazz are playing their 5th road game, and they have failed to cover 5 of their last 6. And the Rockets took them to OT while they got embarrassed by the Pelicans. If Luca plays tonight, this should be it. This is actually kind of an embarrassing of a spread, I think, in my opinion, for what the Jazz have been versus what the Mavericks have been able to do recently. So I think this should be a pretty triumphant win for the Dallas Mavericks. So give me the Mavericks.
I feel like because we're so confident now the Jazz are going to win, we're going to mush them. So I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, looking at the spread, it seemed way too small considering the circumstances. And actually, the next game we're going to talk about, I'm surprised the spread's not a little bit bigger. Could this be a trap game? I'm talking about the Warriors taking on the Nuggets. Nuggets are minus 8-point favorites, but you got to take account that Curry, Thompson, Green, Wiggins, all out. And there's more players like Gary Payton, the second, Andre Iguodala, and Wiseman. So
Pretty much
this is going to be a huge mismatch. Can the Warriors still get it done?
literally pretty much everyone on the Warriors is out. You're gonna have
Yeah,
Steve Kerr come out and take some threes if you want to win this game. But
basically.
yeah, like we at this point, not just that, it's also the fact that you're playing a Nuggets team who employs Jokic. Nikola Jokic plays on that team, and and if you name three different players right now who you think should be the next MVP for this year, you should be failing and get an F if all three of them are not Jokic right now. Because yeah, you've got Embiid and yeah, you've got Giannis, but Jokic is that one guy who's been just consistently good and very like pretty much like taking his team up alone, right? He has no help around him, nothing really. Every now and then he's got some couple of role player guys who come up and who can help him out, but it pretty much is the the Jokic show every single night, and he's been killing it. He had 46 last night when the Nuggets took the Pelicans to OT, and the Warriors lost to LeBron. We already talked about it 2 nights ago. And you mentioned it. Steve Kerr's resting everyone tonight. Clay, Steph, Gary Payton, Wiggins, Iggy. And that pretty much leaves the door wide open for the Nuggets, even if they are on a back-to-back here. I think it should be a bigger spread. You pretty much called it. And Jokic should do Jokic things tonight and get his team a pretty big win. So give me the Nuggets.
Yeah, I'm not ready to hit the panic button on the Warriors just yet. I think this is a team that doesn't really care about the regular season at this point. Let's judge them when everybody is back,
Yeah.
and Green is expected to come back in about a week's time. But yeah, this one could get ugly tonight. I mean, the Warriors are resting everybody, everybody's out, and the Nuggets. This should be a game where they do look dominant. If they don't, then that's gonna raise a little bit of a red flag. But the Warriors, they have not looked themselves lately. They've covered just 2 of 13 games. And in the second half of the season, they're 6-9 against the spread when taking on the Northwest Division. Also, you mentioned it with Jokic. He is looking like that MVP frontrunner. I mean, he is going to be at the top of trying to win back-to-back MVPs. It's going to come down to him and Embiid, in my
Yeah.
opinion. This race is going to go down to the wire. But like, how can you ignore what he is doing? He's on these historical runs. He's on the same list as a Will Chamberlain. He's racking up the most efficient triple doubles you have ever seen. Like, Jokic is just an animal out there, and it's great to watch him play. It makes it look so effortless. And this is a game where I expect Jokic to just go off. I mean, who the hell is going to stop Jokic? And the Warriors, they're only going to have guys like Poole, Lee, Moody. Like, I don't expect them to do much in the spot. So, yeah, I'm going to back the Nuggets here. I think Denver does get it done. They've been playing really well lately, and that's a team that should be getting Murray and Porter Jr. back soon. So, Denver's another one of those teams that could get hot at the right time.
Imagine that team fully healthy. We're not ready. The NBA is not ready. And you pretty much mentioned it. I think this Warriors right now, like the Bucks, right, where they have their foot off the gas pedal. They know what to expect. They know they're in the playoff picture right now, so they can just kind of take it easy. But we know those are sneaky teams. They can turn their narrative around any second, any day, and catch you off guard and make you pretty much cry. But anyway, the last game of the night, we have the Knicks taking on the Kings in what is a confusing matchup where the Kings are favored by -3.5. Do you have an answer for this one, Luca?
Give me the Knicks.
Oh,
I like the
damn.
Knicks in the spot. I would not be surprised if the Knicks even win this game outright. I mean, for as bad as the Knicks have been, all of a sudden they got some momentum, right?
Yeah.
They've won a couple games. They kept it close against the Suns. They could have won that game if it wasn't for the game winner. And the Knicks have actually been really solid in back-to-backs this season, covering in 5 of their 8 games in those back-to-back spots. And the Knicks, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And I just can't trust the Kings. I mean, you're not going to know which Kings team you're going to get. Are you going to get the Kings team that won by 21?
Yep.
Or are you going to get the Kings team that lost by 30? I mean, this is going to be a crazy, showcase here of which Sacramento team are you going to get. Whereas the Knicks, they have been playing well lately, better than what they have been. They got their first win last night in what feels like forever, but they have been covering the spread, and I think they're going to do it again here. I like the Knicks, and I would not be surprised if they win again after winning last night in Los Angeles against a very good Clippers team.
I told myself this week that I'm going to be disagreeing with you a lot more. But we're starting off Monday with like maybe one disagreement on an 8-game night, because I agree with you. Give me the Knicks tonight as well. You made some really good points. They are on a back-to-back here, but They blew out the Clippers last night, and just before that, they only lost by 1 to the Suns. Granted, there was no Book and no CP3, but that's still impressive. I don't care what you say, for the Knicks, that's pretty impressive. And neither team right now is a force to be reckoned with. They're not your hot commodity, PPV teams right now, but the Knicks do get brownie points for what they did to the Clippers. And I understand the fatigue factor. I get they're in a back-to-back here, but I still feel comfortable taking the Knicks tonight. And I never thought I would say that
Yeah.
this year, to be
Yeah.
honest.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing because Friday we agree with every pick and we saw our records be very bad, but maybe today is that day where we cash in. So, yeah, get those bets in. If you agree with us, let us know. If you disagree with us, definitely let us know if you're going to back some of these other spreads that we are not fans of. But yeah, I like a lot of dogs tonight. I think they're going to cash in and we'll see how we do with our records on this head to head against the spread battle. But you can follow us all over social media. Again, let us know your opinion. You can catch this podcast wherever you find your favorite podcast. Be sure to catch us every single day, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern live as we stream 3-point lines here on the parlay. On behalf of myself, Luca Rosano, and Noor Zainab, thank you so much for watching. And we'll catch you all again tomorrow, hopefully with a better record.